from the month of February. Now, India seeks review of Indus Water Treaty. India has issued notice to Pakistan seeking modification to the Indus Water Treaty. Now, disputes related to Kishan Ganga and Rattle projects. There are long-standing differences between India and Pakistan regarding two hydroelectric projects, that is Kishan Ganga project on Kishan Ganga River, which is a tributary of Jhelum, and Rattle project on Chenab. Now, Pakistan has raised objections to these projects, and dispute resolution mechanism under the treaty has been invoked multiple times. But a full resolution has not been reached. In 2015, Pakistan asked for a neutral expert to examine its technical objections to the Hydel project. In 2016, Pakistan retracted the request and approached the World Bank seeking the constitution of a court of arbitration under the relevant dispute redressal provisions of the treaty. Now, India moved a separate application asking for the appointment of a neutral expert. India has argued that Pakistan's request for a court of arbitration violated the graded mechanism of dispute resolution in the treaty. So let's look at the river system. So this would be the river system. This is Chenab, and this is the Neelam River. This is Neelam, and this one is Bias River. And the five rivers meet at Panchnath, and they in turn meet. So Jhelum meets Indus. Moving on to dispute resolution under the treaty. Now let's quickly look at the eastern rivers. Eastern rivers are Satluj, Bias, Ravi, and western rivers are Indus, Jhelum, and Chenab. And annual flow before entering, India can use only about 62.2 cubic kilometers, and India has full right on the waters of eastern rivers. So eastern rivers, India has full right, and for the western rivers, there is a limit assigned to it. And 39% of the total area of Indus Basin lies in India, 47% is in Pakistan, 8% is in China, and 6% is in Afghanistan. Now moving on to the dispute resolution under Indus Water Treaty. The treaty provides three-step resolution mechanism, that is question, differences, and dispute. Now, if a question arises regarding the interpretation or application of the treaty, it shall be first examined by the Indus Water Commission. Differences. If the Commission is unable to resolve the question, it is a difference is said to have arisen. A neutral expert can be appointed by the World Bank to resolve. Now, if there is a dispute, and the dispute is still not resolved by the neutral expert, the dispute can be referred to a court of arbitration. Now, India has objected to Pakistan's approach of first asking for a neutral expert and then reneging on it to seek appointment of court of arbitration. Thus, Pakistan jumped the second stage, that is the neutral expert stage. India has held that each step must be fully exhausted before both sides agree to move on to the next step. Now, Pakistan has moved on without waiting for India's concurrence. India has sent notice to Pakistan to address the issue of two parallel mechanisms for a solution. Now, moving on to China's role in creating instability in the northeast India. At the recent All India Conference of DGPs and IGPs, police officers noted the role of China in insurgency in northeast India. Now, the key highlights from the meeting is China is trying to create instability in the northeast. That is, India shares a 1,643 kilometers long border with Myanmar that passes through four states, which are Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Manipur, and Mizoram. Given the historical and cultural linkages between the people on both sides, the border is relatively porous. A free movement regime is in place under which locals can move up to 16 kilometers on either side of the border. Efforts taken by both India and Myanmar to fence the border has been protested by tribal communities on both sides, who fear that the demarcation would lead them to losing their land and forest access to the other side. Now, China is exploiting this sense of alienation and insecurity among the tribal communities along the India-Myanmar border in order to cause insurgency and instability in the northeast India. Historical links between the northeast insurgents and China. Based on intelligence input, there exists a historical link between insurgents and China. The arms acquired from China are smuggled through Thailand, Bangladesh, and Sino-Myanmar borders into northeastern states. Now, investments in the neighboring country. China is investing huge amount of money in the neighboring countries of India, mainly Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh, Myanmar, and Sri Lanka, in name of infrastructure development and other financial assistance. India's neighboring countries has described China as a crucial development partner, either as a funder or provider of technological and logistical support. Hence, these developments demonstrate that China's presence in Southeast and South Asia is not limited to economic aspects, but involves a greater multidimensional effort to enhance its posture and further its long-term strategic interest in the region. Now, moving on to espionage activities by China, the US shot down several balloons over its airspace that were allegedly used by China for espionage. Now, concerns regarding the incident is surveillance balloons were detected earlier as well, but these are technically advanced balloons. Thus, Chinese espionage capabilities are becoming much more sophisticated. China is increasingly tending to masquerade espionage activities behind the veil of scientific research. China has called these balloons our research missions. In 2022, China has masqueraded a spy ship as research vehicle and docked it in Sri Lanka's Hambantota port. Same tactics can be used to undertake espionage activities against India. Now, the approach required here is all cooperations with Chinese civilian agencies and businesses need to be seen from the prism of security of the state. There is a need to upgrade high-tech counter-espionage measures. The government of India must step up counter-intelligence cooperation with the US and other democracies to counter China's plan. So the advantages of spy balloons over spy satellites is that orbit of spy satellites are predictable. Satellites may be relocated or moved from orbit. However, this requires fuel, which is very low on these satellites and is reserved for critical duties. Hence, they can be tracked by countries. Now, balloons can fly at high altitudes beyond the range of many air-to-air and surface-to-air missiles. Now, spy balloons can hover for long durations, making them ideal for watching over enemy territory. Radar-absorbent materials may help spy balloons hide. They can help to monitor unstable borders, identify traffickers, and rescue fishing vessels around borders and littorals. Now, moving on to initiative for critical and emerging technologies, that is ISET. Now, India's National Security Advisor held talks with US counterpart on first dialogue on initiative for critical and emerging technologies. Now, about ISETs, the ISET initiative was launched by India and the US in May 2022. This aims to expand the India-US partnership for critical and emerging technologies that will drive global growth, bolster both countries' economic competitiveness, and protect shared national security interest. The initiative is being run by the National Security Council of both countries. The areas for cooperation are scientific research and development, AI and quantum research, defense innovations, space, advanced telecom, including 6G and semiconductors. During the first meeting, there was an announcement of a new roadmap for deeper military and techno-economic cooperation between India and US. Both announced the making of a fighter jet engine in India. GE Aerospace has applied for an export license for jet engine production and phased transfer of technology to Indian entities. Now, the significance of the initiative is that ISET will forge closer linkage between the governments, academia, and industry of India and USA. It shows an alignment of strategic, commercial, and scientific approach in the field of technology. Now, ISET could catalyze Indo-US technology cooperation by persuading the US to lift existing export control restrictions. It can encourage the private sector of both countries to cooperate in sensitive sectors. India's defense sector has overdependence on Russia. India's previous transfer of technology resulted only in acquisition of know-how of methods and procedures for assembling the equipment, that is aircrafts, etc., rather than the underlying design principles. So Indian scientists remain unable to develop new technologies. Now, transfer of technology under ISET should address this gap. Now, the challenges regarding this is the US Arms Exports Control Act requires clearances from Department of State and Defense for transfer of technology. It also imposes certain restrictions on the recipient state. The ISET aims to make the US a dominant player in India's defense procurement by replacing Russia, but this will face stiff resistance from Russia. While India is in dire need of technology, the US industry is firmly focused on trade.